Holly and Ginger's Space Voyages by Dale Cook, narrated by Percy Piccolo. Introduction. What is time? Does it have an ending for the new to begin? Astronomers tell us there are stars that sing harmonizing songs. Their purpose for creation is to give a shining light. Oh, if you could go back in time, how far would you want to go? Would it be as a child on a swing, or that first kiss at sweet 16? Oh, to be able to find the notes of your heart's songs and to write them upon paper with rhymes. Soon they too would fade in time. Chapter 1. Holly and Ginger's Space Voyages. Throughout the state of Iowa, it was a hot, humid summer's night. A young girl, Holly and her Pomeranian puppy, who was full of ginger, often sat under the moon rabbit's green light. They called the moon rabbit Bonnie. Sometimes, on a clear night, you could count falling stars. One night was a very special one. A comet was to be seen happily shining its crystal tail into a dark, bluish-greenish sky. Oh, wouldn't it be cool to be an astronaut looking down onto the world on a blue marble? Our mission would carry us beyond infinity, Holly exclaimed. Oh yeah, that would be cool, Ginger howled. I could retrieve that red ball that's floating out in space. That's Mars, replied Holly. And on the way, I could fetch that big white-greenish ball that we call Bonnie, Ginger said. She pointed at it, paws over her mouth. Ginger giggled along with Holly. She kept on talking. You know what we could use for our spaceship? A corn silo. The popcorn would leave a trail so we could find our way back home. That's totally awesome, Holly exclaimed. What a good idea. We'll call it Eagle 2. The family farm's barn could be our control center, replied Holly. Mr. Scarecrow can help us get the spaceship ready while we're getting into our spacesuits. Grandma can pack our lunches. Chapter 2. The two boarded Eagle 2. They secured themselves in their seats with safety belts snapped in place. The control panels were showing green lights telling them all systems were set to go. The Scarecrow started his countdown. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7... Control Center, we have liftoff. It was a successful launch. The vibration from the rocket booster made their teeth chatter. Tummies were turning along with the spiraling ship. Ginger yelped, Oh, I think I'm going to be sick. T-minus 0. Ouch! The heated popcorn had scorched the Scarecrow's hair of straw and singed his mustache off his head. Once they escaped Earth's gravity, their bodies began to float. Looking through the windows of passing time, their small state became tinier. The world's blue oceans of waves were waving their goodbyes as Eagle 2 orbited on toward infinity. In space, there were billions of stars blinking their winks. It was as if they were saying, Hello. The popcorn fuel kept on popping. Pop, pop. They were following the trail of a comet's tail. Ginger yelped, What is that huge object with wings flying toward us, Holly? Holly looked over her left shoulder with concern on her face. Oh, that was a satellite. Thank God it couldn't crash into us. It kept on flying with a beep, beep, beeping around the world. 3. They were weary from a long journey as they traveled farther away from home. Finally, they arrived at their destination, the moon. The spaceship was making its orbit around the moon's dark side. Eagle 2 knew when to tilt its nose for the descent. Beneath, the heated popcorn presented a perfect touchdown for the silo. Ginger had called back to Earth's control center. Mr. Scarecrow, we have landed. Yay, good job, you guys, said the Scarecrow. Bonnie, the moon's rabbit, hid herself in fear. She stayed near a shaded crater. Slowly, the silo door opened. Out leaped Holly with one giant cartwheel for kid kind. Ginger took one small step for animal kind. Bonnie was amazed while gazing upon earthlings playing in laughter, leaving footprints in the moon's crust ever after. They raised the Iowa state flag. The moon started to quake beneath their rambling steps that were slipping and sliding. In fright, they screamed, scrambling, springing and bouncing, trying to leap over rabbit holes for their dear lives. The Eagle 2's light dimmed into darkness. The shaking stopped. Once again, a hush came over the moon. Holly heard a faint puppy cry, Yelp, yep, I'm falling into a rabbit burrow. I cannot get myself out. Holly found her way back by the sound of Ginger's voice. I'm here, Ginger. Can you reach up to grab my hand? Holly cried out. No, I can't. Each time I try, it seems that my faith is fading further away. It's as if the writer's robust eraser is placing us into another book of fairy tales. Bunny also heard a faint puppy crying for help. She was running with a jogging hop, bouncing into springing action with great emotion. She lunged toward her rabbit hole. The tips of Bunny's ears felt the tingling of Ginger's tickling toes, while she was lifting up Ginger into Holly's arms. Hopping out from that rabbit burrow, they had a moment of shock. Right in front of them stood the moon's rabbit, with dark, glazed, piercing eyes. Thank you, Bonnie, for your heroic act by making the writer's pencil too dull. We have to hurry back to our spaceship now, Holly exclaimed. Chapter 4. Once back inside, they secured themselves safely in their seats and closed the silo door. Ginger looked over her shoulder. Hey, Holly, don't look now, but we have a new passenger. It's Bonnie sitting on her cottontail. Holly shrugged her shoulders and said, Oh well, it looks like I have a new pet. Holly called back to Earth. Control Center, this is Eagle 2. We're ready for liftoff. They waited for an answer. Holly called out once more. Can you hear us, Mr. Scarecrow? Please acknowledge. Still nobody was there to respond. Ginger also listened in with her paws over her headphones. She said, mum's the word. After all, he is made up of straw, Holly. Here we go, Ginger said, clicking the control panel's button to heat up the rocket booster. Popcorn started to pop, popping, pop, 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 uplifting them back into space. Tummies were turning as they teleported into another dimension where no one had gone before. They zoomed right on by a comet's crystal tail, where there are endless tails. They traveled the speed of light and then slowed down, coming to a stop. Holly, what happened to all those stars that were rolling like peppermint drops along with the Milky Way? Ginger asked. And why did they just go into a little gumdrop? I just don't know, replied Holly. The stillness of eternal darkness of space surrounded Eagle 2. I'm afraid to say, Holly pointed out, we are lost. The popcorn trail is gone. The only illumination they had was from the control panels. They were looking at their reflection in the glass, watching themselves fading away. In unison, their thoughts took them back to Holly's and Ginger's farm. Chapter 5. Holly asked Ginger, Have I ever told you a story about our great-grandmother Miller? She loved making, in her own special way, old-fashioned Limburger cheese. You know, the kind of cheese that stinks. Oh, yep, said Ginger as she pinched her nose. Well, one day, great-grandmother Miller went to the root cellar to get a roll of cheese. One was missing. Where could it be? She sighed, talking to Roofer, her cat. Then she wondered, have we already eaten it? I'm not sure that we did. These thoughts rambled through Roofer's mind. Who would have taken such a great pleasure as to help himself? So that night, Roofer stayed up in the root cellar. Quietly, he watched over great-grandmother Miller's Limburger cheese. He listened for an unwanted guest. The silence of darkness was broken by the pitter-patter of steps under a little rodent's feet. Roofer leaped, pouncing mightily upon the wee mouse. Mr. Niddle pleaded out a cry. Oh, please, Roofer, take pity on my life. I do have a wife. Mrs. Niddle would be so sad and lonely without me. I am the last of my generation of fairy tales and rhymes. The cat released his pouncing grip. Roofer's heart was still like a kitty's, and he took pity to listen to what Mr. Niddle had to say. Winter months can be so brutal with frost beneath our feet, and it's very hard to find something to eat. If you let us stay, we'll pay our way in the weight of gold. If the missus and I are kept from the cold, the coins are our family heirloom that's buried in secret treasures. Roofer took Mr. Niddle's words to heart and brought a loaf of bread once in a while for the two mice. That was so thoughtful of him. As time went on, winter months turned into April spring that brings a golden coin for great-grandmother Miller. It gave her a new song for her heart to sing. A moment to spare, Then the writer had a thought to put his pencil onto a page to write and change a scene of boredom by sending Holly, Ginger, and Bonnie through a square rabbit hole. They tumbled topsy-turvy around its four corners. Whoa! Then upright they flew into fluffy white clouds across the state of Iowa's turquoise sky. In the distance they were able to see Holly's family farm. The writer's pencil placed their feet running along the cornfield. There Ginger became a private eye dog. Beneath the paws of Ginger's sniffing nose, between the rows of corn stalks, the northern chilly winds blew on glittering tassels with morning dew. Ginger's sense of smell pushed them beyond their normal range, passing up a scary scarecrow. They came to the edge of the garden, hoping to solve this unsolvable crime. Holly with her big spyglass and a double brim that was looking for their clues. Who would have stolen Bonnie's carrot? Chapter 6. Ginger said to Holly, "I don't know. This is becoming a deeper mystery. Whatever this thing is, it seems to disappear then reappear." This is odd indeed," replied Holly. Who knew what danger would lie ahead? Ginger kept on snooping into this mystery. Sometimes she would blast out a snorty sneeze to clear her nose. Oh, there she goes again, sniffing the ground for more clues, leaving Holly and Bonnie far behind. Suddenly there was a yelp. Ginger had found a gigantic footprint with big toes. Bonnie hopped beside Holly while hurrying toward the forlorn cry. Bonnie said, "Wow! Oh my gosh, Ginger, what have you discovered? Good job." Ginger said, "Yeah, I'm totally stoked about this. I think I'm a pretty good detective. Hunting dog." Happily, she panted and wagged her tail. Holly took a closer look with her magnifying glass to examine the gigantic print. "Look at those ridges, guys," replied Holly, "on the sole of this creature's foot. See how the skin ripples when running? It's almost like it's being a ballet dancer, with the tip of its toes sinking in deeper than the heels." Bonnie hopped down into the giant print. Ginger stuck her nose into the dirt to take a closer look, as her tail extended straight out beside Bonnie's cottontail. From out of the clover patch came a whole voice of wisdom speaking. Holly brought up the spying glass to see who was talking. "Why, you are just a little box turtle with a big nose. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was rude of me." She put down her spyglass. "My name is Oliver," said the turtle. This was the first time Ginger had ever seen a box turtle. She ran over to sniff Oliver. "Young lady, could you stop that? You are tickling my nose," said Oliver. "Ginger, come over here and behave yourself," replied Holly. "I am Holly, and my puppy's name is Ginger, and this is my pet rabbit, Bonnie." "It's so nice to make your acquaintance," said Oliver. "I overheard you three talking about giant footprint. May I ask you why you young ladies are searching for that big, hairy creature?" Then Holly said, "No, are you serious? Are you saying that this footprint belongs to a Sasquatch?" "Yes," said Oliver. "There's a family of 4. One of the youngsters picked me up and looked me right into the eyes. That was scary. His mama told him to put me down. He had big teeth, and guys, he forgot to brush them. Ever since I hatched from my egg, I have seen many spooky things in these woods that have caused me to pull my head back inside my shell for my protection. I wouldn't step beyond this garden if I were you, nor would I wander into these woods. You'll have to watch out for Mr. Chipper." Holly inquired, "And who is Mr. Chipper?" "He is a frenzied old squirrel who cracks walnuts on the back of my shell. Sometimes those nuts bounce off my head, and they do hurt," Oliver exclaimed. Just then there was a long whistling howl. "Tell me you didn't hear that, guys," Holly cried out. The forest went silent. It was eerie. The birds stopped chirping. The frogs stopped croaking. Chapter 7. Suddenly a jolt brought them back to Eagle 2. The dark space lit up with colorful ripples. Screams could be heard coming from the silo. It was not tossed around lightly. It was just like paper being blown off a straw. Then there appeared Holly's guardian angel with long, waving blonde hair and a shimmering, silvery, golden shawl running to its feet. He wrapped his arms and golden white wings around the out-of-control spinning silo and protected them from blasting space debris of the Big Bang. Then the angel waved the 3 on to follow him. They witnessed the dramatic heavenly splendor, a scene of quasars shooting shining beams of lights upon new singing stars. Pounding meteorites were hitting worlds, sounding like bass drums. The heated popcorn began to pop, making a trail of rainbow tails. It was a mixture of yellowish-white, magenta-red, and endless colors, against a backdrop of emerald-green space. New worlds were forming. Pop, pop, pop. They were on their way back home. The end.